Welcome to the Mike Novak Show with Peggy Malecki. Green, gardening, and environment radio with just a soupçon of humor. Or is that a dash? Brought to you by Bartlett Tree Experts. Every tree needs a champion. Go to bartlett.com. Here they are again, Peggy Malecki and Mike Novak.
All I need is good food to eat and make me healthy, wealthy, wide awake. Lettuce, tomatoes, rutabagas. What about those sweet potatoes? All I need is good food to eat. All I need is good food to eat. All I need is good tools to make me music, porches, lawn serene.
And welcome back to the show. I was going to tell you, Peggy, you turned the sideways a little bit once while I had a close-up of Julie, and it looked pretty good. Why did you decide to go back to the vertical?
Because I have to hand hold it.
Oh, to do it the other way?
Yes.
Oh, okay. Okay, well.
Otherwise, I have to sit like this.
No, you don't. We can see you just fine. It looks great. That's a great shot. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no. You don't.
All right.
Oh, no. You should.
If the whole thing comes crashing down,
Then you just
we'll
put
deal
it
with
right back up. Okay, there you go.
And now
look,
you can see my
your hippiastrum,
hippiasters.
hippiasters, or amaryllis, as the uninitiated call them. They look lovely. Are they striped?
They are like a salmon and white stripe, and I have 4 blooms open right now.
Wow. Well, mine are about to collapse. The ones behind me, they're just about done, as you can see. But that's the last week I'll have them. But I've got some more that I will bring in.
This is actually called Dancing Queen.
Oh dear.
And now that earbud will be
that's right.
That earworm will be there.
Okay. Look who we have in the lower left corner of our screen. For you, those of you listening on the podcast, it's still the lower left corner of the screen. It's Karen Taira. She's president of the Evanston Environmental Association. Wait, Environmental Association. Karen, that's my Bill Curtis impersonation.
Excellent. Environment.
And she is also the chair of the Wild and Scenic Film Festival. You've heard about it on our show. We've been talking about it for several weeks now. And it's coming up on the 19th and the 26th. So, Karen, welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, it's such a pleasure. And Karen and I talked. She's secluded in her basement where she has a strong signal down there, and the kids I hope they're not sucking up too much of the bandwidth in the house today.
They aren't. They one of them is 15, so I'm not even sure he's up yet. So
well, if I can guarantee you, if I weren't doing the show, I'd be kind of okay, time to get up on a Sunday. I'd be doing the same thing.
Well, we have a lot of people sending you hi Karens and hearts, so you've got a big fan base out there watching this morning.
Wow. Oh, that's fantastic. And I have to tell you, I was so absorbed with the conversation and by the conversation with Julie, and I didn't even think to look at the comments coming in the first hour. I was, and I apologize to you folks because there was so much I wanted to get. What?
I was watching the comments. So.
Okay. Well, Peggy was on the job, so good for her. And
but
now
I think that this morning's guest, if you got to hear, Julian would be a great addition to your programs as well.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And now that we all do it via inner tubes, he'd be fantastic. And hey, I happen to know him personally. Maybe I can set you up there, Karen.
That would be great. I'll be in touch. For sure.
Okay, good. So here you go. One thing I did not realize is that this is your 11th year, isn't it?
It is. Yes. This is the 11th year that the EEA has hosted it. I think
right.
The National Film Fest is about 13 or 14 years old.
Mm-hmm. And that's what we should explain is that there is a National Film Fest, Wild and Scenic Film Festival, and they send their product around to different cities and organizations like the Evanston Environmental Association. Uh, I'm sorry. I am incorrigible.
Oh
You cannot
dear.
trust me. Um,
Don't encourage him either.
and so what you guys do is you bring in the films that you want to show out of that group of films. And as you were
Yep.
telling me the other day, Karen, that's not an easy decision, is it?
There are not. So the films range in time from some are as long as 2 minutes, and then others are more of a feature length, 50 minutes or more. Um, but we go through about 80 to 100 of the films. We have a committee of 6, and we split them up, and we go through about 80 films, and then we try to determine the 8 to 10 films for each night that will show that have a range of appeal. So some are more celebratory of nature and being out in wildlife. Some are more about environmental justice or indigenous rights. And so we try to have a good variety of films. And the hardest part is to choose to pare it down to just 2 75-minute long programs.
Was there one in particular that you walked away saying, I can't believe we didn't choose that film?
There was one several years ago that was it was about an interesting conservation effort out west, and the whole conservation effort, and people had their giant ATVs guarding these particular preserves, and it was a whole force of hunters, and they wanted to keep it for hunting. And if you know a lot about the history of conservation, of Teddy Roosevelt and things like that, a lot of conservation actually came from the hunting and game industry to keep the lands pristine, so they had some game to hunt. But I was outvoted. We had very, very strong opinions on our board about not wanting, a couple of people not wanting hunters to be highlighted. So it was unfortunate because it was actually a very compelling story, and I think it was pretty interesting. But there are always some that are a little too long, and we only have 75 minutes each night, so we don't want to take 45 of it with just one film. So one of the things that we have found that's appealing about our film fest is that people do get to see 8 to 10 films stitched together. So they're shorter films, but they make one big event. So that's kind of nice.
I think you made a really good point there about hunters, and one of it comes up in Julian's book as well, that there are areas that that's how some of these lands get protected, as you mentioned, is because there is some hunting, and you have to have a balance. Somehow you have to put everything, and that's one of the things he talks about is how do we create this balance in nature. I'm telling you what we'll do. I do have a film trailer from the Wild and Scenic Film Festival. Let's pop this in. And these are some of the films that you're likely to see if you sign up with the Evanston Environmental Association for the...
I just popped that link up into the live stream here.
Oh, fantastic. So folks can sign up right now. But let's take a look.
So it's time for a revolution, and we are a revolutionary people.
Bring us to the table. That's all we ask.
Once you engage in the activism, you see hope everywhere.
Wow, some pretty cool stuff there. I like the two in particular that I like are the that I don't know what that animal was that was sticking its tongue out. And the park ranger in the boots kicking the plastic signs.
In
Yeah.
the one in the heels.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like, what is that? What the heck is that?
Well, you gotta go to the film festival to find out.
So, having seen that, Karen, what are the images strike you about some of the films that you're going to be showing? And the six. Well, actually, you guys talked about six that you want to highlight. One is The Crown, which we've talked about on this show. Will Acuna Robinson's thoughts on his incredible achievement made him the first African American male on record to complete the Triple Crown of hiking. There's another one, 24 Leeches, Wild and Wool, Here We Stand, The Church Forests of Ethiopia, and On the Fence Line, A Fight for Clean Air. But if there was an image that popped up that made you think, oh, I want to tell folks, what would it be?
There was the image of the woman that said she wants a voice at the table. And that is actually from one of our films that's called On the Fence Line. And it's about an organization a community organization called Philly Thrive. It's in Philadelphia. And there is an oil refinery that people have been sort of campaigning to have it shut down or have it clean up its business a little bit. And then there was a huge explosion and fire, and the refinery was shut down. And so this film highlights the community's efforts to keep it shut down and have it remain closed. And what strikes me about that film is it's pretty similar to what's going on in Chicago right now on the South Side, where they would like the metal recycling plant placed there.
General
and then
Iron.
of course the community, General Iron, the community that does not really want that there. And I think what's great is it's about the community. The people from the community have come together, and they are the ones who are getting sick. They are, of course, not the ones who are benefiting financially from the industry. And so, it's, again, as we talked about, there has to be that balance. We all want these industries, and we want, we need our oil to power our lives right now. And but at the expense of these communities that typically do not get to have a say. And so it's a compelling film about that. And that's actually what we call one of our anchor films. It's about 24 minutes long, so it's one of the longer films in the film fest.
I would argue that you talk about balance. I would argue that the balance has been too far over to one side for far too long. There's been very little social justice, environmental justice. The scales have been tipped in favor of the fossil fuel industry for too long. And if we're going to achieve that balance, now it's got to come back the other way. And that's what's happening. Another thing going on in Philadelphia, ironically, is that there are a lot of incinerators there, and things that you think are being recycled are being burned instead. That is a crucial problem throughout the world. I saw a story on it just recently. And there's a lot of social justice that needs to happen in Philadelphia, but it needs to happen in Chicago too, as we've talked about on this program and throughout the United States.
That's on the 26th. So the two nights are different. So the films on the 19th are different from the films on the 26th. So you can buy your tickets for either one. And the money goes in, helps the EEA. We're an environmental education and awareness not-for-profit. So we support environmental education and awareness throughout the city of Evanston and our community. And one of the ways we do that is support the Evanston Ecology Center, which is the city's nature center in Evanston. And we support some other initiatives on McCormick, yes. And we provide scholarships as well for the summer camps. So they have specialty science and nature camps, and we provide scholarships for people who otherwise would not be able to attend the camps, which is kind of cool.
One of the things that you guys mentioned when you were writing to us was going virtual this year. That gives you the opportunity to go worldwide, really, in a way that you couldn't before. I'm not sure if it was you or your colleague who wrote to me and said that we used to fill up these theaters and we'd have, 180 people in a theater, but now we can have 10 times that many if we want
Yes.
online.
So we had been hesitant in years past to do things like the Mike Novak show, and because by the time the show airs, we had almost always sold out of our film fest because our venue only holds 200 people. So this year we're able to take as many as will come. So that's exciting about that. I mean, it's a shame that we're not in person again still, but Um, but it's
expanded
really
your
nice
audience so much.
It has, and people who know the EEA but have moved on, and people who were, I know someone who was a summer camp counselor at the Ecology Center, and she's out in Colorado, and so she was never able to come to the film fest, but she will be able to this year. And then we get to also expand who gets to see these films, and the South Yuba River Conservation League, or Circle, is the organization that puts on the National Wild and Scenic Film Fest. And being one of what they call our on-tour sites for the Chicagoland area, we get to show these films to a wider audience for them, but certainly a wider audience for us as well. So that is a good part of being virtual, and everybody can be nice and, cozy in their jammies and watching the films.
Right, and you encourage families to participate and partake of the films as well, and that's a really good way to do some good, really, and be educated about our fragile planet by sitting down with your family and watching some of these wonderful films.
We do, and we try to include films that have some families in it, have some kids in it, or have some kids doing some conservation. So each of the nights we do have one of the films, some films that focus on kids. The 24 Leeches is actually narrated by a 10-year-old boy, and it is a father's film about a celebration of his adventure partner. And the need to have the kids learn this and have these outdoor experiences, and they're lucky enough to be able to have these outdoor experiences. And it's also, as a mom, I think it's wonderful because that film is also such a celebration of the awe that parents have of watching their kids learn something that you value and how they interpret that and put that out in the world as well. So that's kind of a beautiful film. It does all that in 10 minutes.
Wow, that's
Well, and I think that's a good point too, of what you talked about, 10-minute film, 7-minute film. These are all short. So to have the family together, especially with younger children, there's a lot they're going to learn in a small amount of time and keep their attention, as opposed to a 90-minute showing.
Yes, and we've all been online for a year now, so there are some things that we're more comfortable with, and there's a bit of fatigue with that, I think, as well. So it's nice to have these shorter films, and they are all beautiful and visually compelling. So I think that is also a good thing to have too. And then there are kids working in conservation in one of our films on the 26th called "If We Take Care of the Land, It Will Take Care of Us," and that is about a group of kids that do some conservation work. So just as Julian Hoffman had actually been talking about earlier in the show, we get to see the kids have this experience of being outside and being safe outside and learning something and actually having a feeling that they are having a part in it, having an effect on it, a positive effect on it, and being able to do something. And maybe someone in that class will become a scientist, someone in that class will become an advocate for the environment, and I think that's important.
So that's you mentioned that film also on the 26th. What on the 19th are you looking forward to?
The 19th has quite a few good films, and The Crown is actually one that is pretty interesting. The Triple Crown of hiking is quite an achievement for anybody. And then we have the first African American person to do it, and it's interesting that it's 2019 or I think was when the film was filmed. Most of these were filmed before the pandemic, so but it's 2019 and we're still having the first African American person to do this and the first African American person to do this, and even in conservation, we still are not seeing a full representation that we would all like to see. So I like that one a lot. And then there is also one that is called Wild and Wool, and that is an interesting, again, visually it's beautiful, but it's interesting because it's a film about the effect that a bacteria that can live in domestic sheep and doesn't hurt them actually has a disastrous effect on the populations of bighorn sheep. And so the grazing that goes up into the mountains and has more and more instances of interactions between the domestic and the wild sheep can kill off all the lambs. They get pneumonia, and so there are some hard to watch little clips in that. So because you see the animals and they're not well, and then you see that some of the populations aren't doing well and some are. But it's also, again, we try to have some films of the films be inspirational as well as informational, so they're not big downers. So this is also a film about the scientists that are trying to do the research to figure out how they can either prevent the spread from the domestic population to the wild population, or possibly give antibiotics to the domestic population so they can't spread it. And so it's about, without a conclusion like, yay, we figured it all out and it's all over. Not every film is like that, but it's about the efforts to do so that at least we know that, they're working on it. And so it's hopeful in that way.
Well,
Again.
you bring up a really good point, and we have just like a minute left, that your job is to educate, also to entertain. It's also fundraising. You
Yes.
want to bring families in, and you're an environmental organization. A lot of environmentalism is not pretty, and it doesn't always have a happy ending. And that must be a really tough thing to have in the back of your head as you're making decisions about films.
It is. It can be tough because there are a lot of the films that, you think, oh, everyone should know this and everyone needs to learn about this. And, but that's also why we weave in some of these that are just celebrations of the beauty of nature, or celebrations of a community coming together and actually making a change for the health of their community and the health of the environment in their community, as well as the people. And so that is a nice balance we try to strike. You want it to be serious. You don't want, you want to give the actual information. And you want people to have a sense of hope or a sense of a call to action. So if they feel like they can do something to help, then hopefully they will.
Well, folks can be part of the Wild and Scenic Film Festival, March 19th, March 26th. The program does not repeat, as we mentioned, so you're going to see something different each night. Virtual doors open at 6:30. The films start at 7. It's $10 for individuals, $18 for a group of 2 or more, and of course, you're on the honor system. But come on, folks.
Or $25 with an extra gift to the environment.
Right, you can do 20.
Evanston
Do
Environmental
that.
Association.
Do the
And
20.
you have, and when you buy your ticket, you have access to those films again, so you can come to from 7 to 9, or and you can also watch those films for another 24 hours.
Oh, good.
The link is good for another 24 hours. So if you can't make it Friday night, you can still buy your ticket and watch it Saturday morning anyway.
Right. As you mentioned, there's a religious holiday on one of the Fridays, right?
Yeah, so we know that we're this time of year. There's one of the film fests is the first night of Passover. The rest of the week is some varying spring breaks, and so people may or may not be traveling for that. And so you have access to that for another 24 hours, but you have to buy your ticket before the event.
All right. Karen, Taira from the Evanston Environmental Association. Thank you so much. And I'm so glad. See, now you have a reason to actually be on the show since it's all virtual and you haven't sold out of everything yet. And folks,
Right.
go to my website, mikenovak.net. All of the links are there. It's easy. It's supporting a great organization, and you're going to learn a lot. You'll be inspired. Yeah, you might have a little twinge of conscience, which is also not a bad thing.
Which is good for you.
And
yeah.
things to discuss with the family. Yes.
Right, exactly. There's the topic. We're going to have a little discussion about this afterward, kids. All right. Karen, thank you so much. And good luck.
Thank you both so much.
All right, take care.